Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another Dhamma talk conducted by Bhante Mattumagala Chandananda, hosted by Ottawa Theravada Buddhist Vihara. Bhante Chandananda is from Calgary, and he started his first talk last Monday. He talked about the first two truths, the noble truth called dukkha, and the noble truth called the cause of the dukkha. In today's talk, he will be talking about the second, third, and fourth truths, which means the noble truth on the cessation of the dukkha. At the same time, the fourth truth goes by the noble truth called the path which leads to the cessation of the dukkha. So without further ado, I would like to invite Bhante Chandananda to begin his Dhamma talk. And I want to thank you, Bhante Chandananda, for taking your time for giving these Dhamma talks. Thank you. So please.
Samanta Chakravalesu Atra Gacchantu Devata Sagdammang Munirajase Sunantu Sangamokadang Dhammasavana Kalu Ayam Badanta Dhammasavana kalu ayam badanta Dhammasavana kalu ayam badanta Namo tasse bhagavato arahato Samma sambuddhasse Namo tasse bhagavato arahato Samma sambuddhasse Namo tasse bhagavato arahato Samma sambuddhasse Katamanca bhikkave dukkha nirodhang ariya saccang yo tassa yeva tanhaya asesa viraga nirodho chago patinissaggo mutti analayo idang uccati bhikkave dukkha nirodhang ariya saccanti. Dear Venerable Sir and dear friends of Dhamma, so we are going to continue our talk, which was started last Monday, and I'm going to talk about, as Venerable Dr. Chandima said, the third and fourth noble truths. So in a way, we are very lucky that even amidst a pandemic of this sort, we are still able to engage in some Dhamma talk and Dhamma discussions. You know, that is something great. If we can take few more breaths before we die, right? If there are a couple of breaths left, the best time to spend that time, that short time, is to reflect on Dhamma. And that is the most important thing in our life. Right? Even before the pandemic, this was true. But many people did not understand its value. So, dear friends, Buddha asked, "O monks, what is this, the third noble truth of the cessation of suffering? If there is a complete, remainderless eradication of this craving as a result of treading on the Noble Eightfold Path, if there is some complete letting go, abandoning of this craving in such a way that they will not arise again. That is very important, right? It is niravasesa nirodha. If there is desirelessness, abandoning and letting go of this craving, this is called the third noble truth of the cessation of suffering. So, dear friends, we have to understand this third of the noble truth. It is about Nibbana, the unshakable peace of Nibbana, right? So whatever we experience in this life, they are plagued with many problems. They are tainted, they are shaken by opposing, states of mind. So we cannot enjoy a real relaxation, and they cannot be hailed as a refuge for these miserable beings who seek some solace, a refuge, right? So we have to understand this cessation is twofold. This nirodha is twofold. First one is momentary cessation. Pali word is kanika nirodha. There is momentary cessation, and also there is the absolute or complete cessation, niravashesha nirodha or anuppada nirodha. So we should understand what is this momentary cessation. It is introduced by Buddha, as you know, maybe often you have heard like uppada vaya dhammino, all dhamm, all phenomena are of the nature of arising and passing, right? In every given moment, in a very rapid speed, this name body process would arise and pass away. Actually, now maybe you can remember last week when I talk about these 5 aggregates, what is there to call as our life, this name body process. Buddha always introduce each and every one of these aggregates as some process. He did not introduce them as some entity, right? It is a process. Actually, the universe means a process. It is not a thing. In other words, in this existence, there are no nouns. There are only verbs. But nouns are just concepts we develop in order to convey our ideas by means of this language. So Buddha said once, it is okay to use these words in a conventional sense for their practical use, but if they cling on to their meaning as if we take for granted as they are substantial, lasting, eternal things, we are inviting a great deal of emotional and even physical discomforts. So momentary cessation, things arise. Uppada vai dhammino, they arise and they just pass away, right? It is a kind of a dance, right? Arise and pass away. And giving you some example, if you happen to beat a drum, right? Whenever your hand touches that tightened skin of the drum, the face of the drum, there is sound. And once the hand is withdrawn, the sound disappears, right? If you want to hear the drum beat continuously, you have to keep on beating that drum. So that sound just arises and passes away. So do with everything, right? In a close look. In deep meditation, one can see this, all these emotions, they just arise and pass away. Actually, this what we call consciousness also, we can introduce it as some, it is something flashing, right? just momentary. But normally, as untrained mind cannot capture this very rapid arising and passing, we perceive it as a continuum, and that is called some distortion of our perception. That is a distorted perception. So we have to understand here, there is no particular value in that momentary cessation. There is nothing to celebrate, because having passed away, they will arise. They go away to come back. So there is no particular important value throughout the samsara that really happened. And then, fortunately, there is the second cessation. That is the anutpada nirodha, niravasesa nirodha. That is the remainderless cessation of dukkha. That is a remainderless cessation of craving in this context. And that is something should be celebrated, right? I will give you an analogy. Now, let's say there is a tree in your garden, and this tree will produce. It is of the nature of producing toxic flowers, toxic fruits, and poisonous seeds also. So you were plagued by this menace for a long time. And one day you gather courage, right? What can be called manly courage, and you cut down this tree and you will burn it. You will destroy it completely. And then, together with that destruction of this particular tree, those toxic flowers, fruits, seeds that are to be arisen in the future, also would be destroyed, right? The destruction of this tree and the destruction of those fruits not yet arisen cannot be separated, right? If we destroy this tree now, those toxic, troublesome fruits, seeds, etc. will be gone. There is no way for them to emerge again. So, anutpada nirodha or nibbana should be understood in that light. This is how we have to understand about this nibbana. And, now, if you mindfully investigate this life, at least to some extent, you will understand that, these people try very hard to achieve various status. It is mainly because of the pleasant feelings associated with those relationships or those social status, etc. And no matter how much people struggle or apply themselves to attain those pleasant, good, agreeable feelings and those perceptions, after some time, they will be boring. You will be bored, right? It is somewhat common in this world to see, people always, they find some fault with what they already have at this moment. And they desire, they think what is not achieved, what is at a distance, seem to be juicier, better, more fulfilling, right? That is the way it is. So in such an unfortunate situation, in such an unsatisfactory situation, in contrast, we have to understand Nibbana, or this unshakable bliss of Nibbana, right? It is a happiness unboring. It is not boring. And it is indestructible, because whatever we perceive in this world, it belongs to the world, to the mundane realm, and as they are fabricated, they will fall apart. They are destructible, and we have to understand the opposite of Nibbana. It is indestructible. So these things we have to remember when you talk about Nibbana. And the happiness of Nibbana, it is eternally pervading. It is eternally pervading. Whereas other sensual pleasures and that stuff is concerned, always, as each and everything we love, like, they are dependent on so many factors, and those factors in turn depend upon some other causes. And always we are troubled. We have to work very hard to keep them going, right? Various toys you use, right? Relationships, your houses, cars, etc., etc. Everything should be maintained. Reconditioning. Always things have to be reconditioned. There is no end to reconditioning, right? Even with reconditioning, things will last for some particular duration. And beyond that, there comes a point, reconditioning, repairing is not an option at all. We call it the death. In such a world, we have to really appreciate this Nibbana, right? It is happiness eternally pervading. And also, another very important thing we should understand is, please don't think that you can have a good, deep sense of Nibbana using words, right? Words are so poor that Nibbana is such a rich thing that words cannot convey properly the meaning, because the words are developed to convey what belongs to this mundane world, and they were developed just for some practical reason. And as Nibbana is unworldly, it is some supramundane concept, some supramundane Dhamma, right? There are no words good enough to convey or explain Nibbana. You have to verify it for yourself. You have to realize it for yourself. And Buddha said, Pachattang veditabbo vinyuhiti, right? Wise shall realize for themselves. Buddha can help. So no words are rich enough to give some sense of Nibbana, but Buddha of mighty compassion, with his expertise, with his eloquent knowledge, what Buddha did was, he used the negation of certain worldly terms. And also, he aroused the energy of his followers to put forth effort. Once Buddha said, "O monks, indeed, this Nibbana, it really exists. Strive forth." In Pali, Buddha said, Atti bhikkave ajatang abhutang akatang asankatang. Atti, indeed there is, it exists. Right? Because when something is not visible, and when it is hard to explain, some people might easily be discouraged. Followers might doubt. That is why Buddha said, it really exists. Strive forth, right? And those terms used all denote Nibbana in negation of certain existing things. As an example, Atti bhikkave ajatang abhutang akatang. Ajata, everything we experience, it is jata, which means it is born, right? I was born, you are born, sons, daughters, your cats, dogs, they are born. Everything is born. When something is born, it should also pass away. We are born to die. As an enlightened monk in Theravada, as what is the miracle in birth, which is surely followed by death, right? Everything is born, and Nibbana is ajata. It is not a born thing, it is unborn, right? It is not born. It is not something which arose in that way. It exists. Atti, ajatang, abhutang, right? It is not, Nibbana did not come up as a result of fabrication of certain factors. Akatang, it is not designed. It is not developed. Abhutang, akatang, asankatang. Everything you find in this world, right? They are sankata, fabricated, conditioned, right? You know, now Hindu yogis, they try hard to achieve, let's say, this formless jhana, right? Immaterial absorptions. They are true, but I will agree that in a comparative sense, they are blissful, more blissful than this earthly kind of trouble-ridden existence, this life. And the lifespan, if you happen to be born in that Brahma worlds, right, immaterial realms, the lifespan is much longer, but they are also conditioned things, right? And again, you will perish from those status, and you have to always, you have to apply your techniques to maintain those states, right? There is no, Buddha didn't praise them as real refuges. No refuge is to be found in a fabricated condition world. And Nibbana, everything is sankata, everything is conditioned. Nibbana is the unconditioned. Everything we see is subject to death, right? Mata means it will pass away. So amata, right? Amata is deathless, which is beyond death. So Buddha used these words. And also another important thing, now when Buddha was talking about this Nibbana, it is easy for ordinary people to ignore, to be demotivated, as there is nothing. So, and also this Dhamma teaches us about two kinds of happinesses, Vedaita Sukha and Avedaita Sukha. Vedaita Sukha is very prominent in this world. It is well sought after. And, what you derive from sensual gratification, like when you see, okay, in this way, when there are sights, taste, sounds, etc., agreeable, good sights, sounds, smells, and taste, etc., there is some tangible happiness. There is a happiness. It is a tangible happiness, Vedaita Sukha. And, that kind of happiness is not lasting. It is not fulfilling. And it is plagued with various, defilement. Always it comes with some, we have to pay some price, and it is not a satisfactory thing, to say in fine. And there is Avedaita Sukha. It is intangible happiness. And that is the happiness of freedom from all sorts of unsatisfactoriness and dukkha. One very nice statement said by Buddha about noble truth of dukkha is yuddhang atti jayannatti. There is an ongoing war, and there is no winner, right? An ongoing war without a winner is another term, good term for samsaric journey. Even to reflect this would be, it is a great source of merit, good kusala, right? It is pure kusala to reflect on that saying with wisdom and mindfulness. Yuddhang ati jayannati, right? To be free from this never-ending battle, struggle, where all beings always lose, is the real bliss. It is avedaita sukha, it is intangible happiness. Whenever we talk about happiness, always what comes to people's mind is that tangible happiness, which is very gross. It is not a real happiness. It has become happiness because of our distorted perception. So, when Buddha was alive, there was a banker, very rich, and he developed a headache, right? It was so severe. Many doctors came and they prescribed various medication, and none of them could heal this bad headache. And then came the legendary physician called Jivaka, but at that time he was very junior, right? If we call that place Taxila, or that professor, if we call it a university, a medical college, he was just passed out from the medical college. And that teacher, those days settings were different. So his guardians, so parents, sent this the person Jivaka to this university, and his professor or the acharya, right, teacher, he understood now this disciple is outstanding. He will, on the way back to the his house, his hometown, he will earn a great deal of wealth because he is such a brilliant, skillful doctor now. And reflecting on that, he gave only pocket money to Jivaka when he was going back to his hometown, and he left. Now somehow somebody sent this Jivaka to this very distressed banker, and when Jivaka went there, actually those banker and those family members, they were not impressed also, because they thought now many senior doctors than this Jivaka came, inspected, prescribed various medication. They only took away our money, no improvement. They could not cure. How come this kind of young, much younger person, the youngest doctor we have seen, could help our master? It's not going to help. However, he was given a chance to diagnose, inspect the patient. Then he asked, if I'm going to cure this disease, sir, what are you going to give me? How you are going to show your gratitude? Then, unreservedly, that banker told Jivaka, if you cure this headache, I will give my entire wealth and I myself become your slave, right? So you can understand what a tantalizing problem this headache is. And normally when we are healthy, we do not appreciate enough. When we are healthy, we might need so, sophisticated things to be happy. In fact, if you do not have this kind of very bad headache, that itself is enough. You don't have to go after, many teledramas, movies, gossiping, and various all sort of not so healthy, not so wise things people do, right? It is such a great thing, the wealth of health. So then Jivaka prescribed his medication, and to the amazement of everybody, he cured. This Jivaka, he was very skillful. He later also became the official doctor of the Buddha, right? So then Jivaka asked, now, sir, you have to keep on your promise. and without without any hesitation, that banker told, okay, take all of my wealth and I myself will be your servant, your slave, not a servant. There's a difference between, right? Slave. At that time in ancient India, there were slaves, not only servants. So, fortunately, this, very skillful physician, a gem of a doctor, he charged only a fair amount. So, the takeaway from the story is even to be free from one headache is worth so much, right? Worth of that. The value is so great, right? If we continue to live in this samsara, if we continue this aimless wandering of samsara, the headaches we are going to suffer is countless, right? Terminal diseases, pandemics, right? All sorts of diseases, emotional problems, physical problems, countless. And if we attain Nibbana, all those things will be annihilated, eradicated. They will not arise. There is no footing for those things to come up or occur. And again, let's say if there is a king and he catch a terminal disease, if that happens, if this king can get rid of his death by giving a large sum of money, he will take that opportunity, right? If he has to give his whole kingdom, right, the entire kingdom, the reign, to save his life, he will do that also, because what is the point of having a kingdom if you do not have health, or if you are not going to survive more than a couple of days? So the escape, liberation from a single death is so much of worth. It is so valuable, so precious, right? Then imagine if we are going to conquer 100 deaths, 1,000 deaths, what is the value of that, right? Unless we attain Nibbana, the number of deaths we are going to suffer is countless. It is countless. And in this context, we have to understand the bliss of Nibbana. It is the real bliss. It is the real bliss. So, dear friends, moving on, we have to think of now the fourth noble truth, right? Fourth noble truth of the path leading to the cessation of this dukkha. Path leading to the cessation of dukkha. Buddha said, what is that? Ariyova attangiko maggo, right? That is nothing but this noble eightfold path. So, namely, there is right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So, always the word right is used, the particular relevant Pali word is samma, right? Right, wholesome meaning is conveyed by that term. And it also reminds us that there is an opposite also. It is mithya, right? So, as opposed to right view, there is a wrong view. That wrong view, wrong intention, wrong speech, etc., we were practicing throughout our samsaric journey. One important thing, we should know about this Noble Eightfold Path, right? In teaching, of course, we have to take one by one and tell you. But in a practical sense, right, they do not exist independently. They are interrelated and interconnected. They exist and operate supporting each other. This is important. So this Noble Eightfold Path, Buddha said, this is the path trodden by previous Buddhas, previous great sages. And Buddha also rediscovered that. And he shared his wisdom of this path and how to develop those path factors. So the first one, right view, right? This right view is twofold. First one is mundane right view. Second one is supramundane right view. So mundane right view consists of factors like, we should have a sense of giving, right? Giving is praised by the wise, and it makes sense. It is good for our well-being. It is good for this life. It is good for next life. This sharing what you have, right? And sharing what you have in a big puja-like way, right? Let's say offerings made in a very respectable way to a person like Buddha, to a great pagoda. If you are in your right mind, right, those things should be, there are so many things to be uttered, explained under these topics, but I do not go to such details in that subtopics. And also, there is this world, there is next world, there is some norm called karma, right? Those are some of the path factors. There is mother, there is father, right? There are spontaneously born beings like gods, demons, hungry ghosts. Right? That knowledge we should have. Otherwise, we will be reluctant to apply our effort, energy in other path factors, and we will never come up. We will not rise above the mundane level, what can be called this mire of defilement, right? We will not raise our head up from this kind of burning cauldron of negative emotions. We will not rise above. We will not come up, right? So that it is very important. And so I will not teach in detail about this mundane right view. Normally, Sri Lankan Buddhists, they are informed again and again from our culture, right? They are informed, they are educated. However, when white Buddhists are concerned, they do not get enough chance. One reason is these things like, okay, about generosity, yes, they appreciate that, right? And about pujas, about sense of karma, this life, afterlife, they do not get enough. They don't get enough, right? Even the value of mother and father. The same, I'm not condemning or kind of criticizing, right? Most of the factors of this mundane right view, they are not very close to this Western culture. And I think that side, they have to improve. So I moved on to the next subtopic, supramundane right view. This mundane right view would serve as a foundation so that you can develop the mansion which can be compared to supramundane right view. Supramundane right view is, you should have your understanding about dukkha, the cause of dukkha and the cessation of dukkha and path leading to the cessation of dukkha. So the second factor of Eightfold Path, it is a right intention, right concepts. Samma Sankappa, right? What is the Samma Sankappa? Right intention. There are three parts, right? Nekkama Sankappo, Avyapada Sankappo, Avihinsa Sankappo. Nekkama Sankappo means, let's understand the opposite first. What is opposite of Nekkama Sankappa is the thoughts of sensual gratification, right? This sensual gratification is a kind of a cesspit. It's a kind of a mire. If an elephant somehow get into a muddy kind of mire, it is very difficult for him to come up. He will struggle. Likewise, this mire of karma, right? It sticks people and it does not let people escape, beings escape. It is unforgiving. It is very sticky, right? It is a kind of a booby trap. So what we have to do is, when we associate with these things, right, we cannot completely withdraw from them also, right? It is practically not possible. So what we have to do is, we have to be very careful. Seeing the danger, we have to take the use. We have to think they are kind of tools for our existence. Let's say, take the food, right? Food, in the Dhamma point of view, food is a sort of a medicine. But what has happened in today's world, right? People eat too much, some people, and they eat unhealthy junk food. So idea of food is to maintain our health, and the very same food has made many people sick, right? It is said that about 50% of Americans are obese, right? And obesity is linked with many diseases like high blood pressure, diabetics, heart problems, right? Because they don't have that wisdom, right? They don't have nekkama sankappa. Nekkama does not mean that you have to starve yourself. Eat, but please reflect on, listen to your body, and be careful not to make your mind tainted, defiled in a medicine-like sense. So do with our clothing, dresses. Why we use this dress, right? To ward off cold, ward off heat, and to cover up certain parts, body parts that if we do not cover properly, we will lose the sense of fear and shame with regard to wrongdoing. Now in this world, there are certain dresses, right? Instead of covering certain parts, they will expose these parts in contrast. And it is like crazy, because there is no nekkama sankappa, right? Thoughts of renunciation. Thoughts of renunciation, very important. Then, second one, nekkama sankappo, avyapada sankappo, thoughts of metta, loving, caring thoughts we should have in our hearts, right? It really makes sense, because most of the things we do, it is connected with some being who is called known as myself or others. And if we understand the first one, right view, it says that things are basically unsatisfactory. And when we perceive a living being, right, naturally, if we are mindful, naturally it arouses metta, because all other people are basically like me, right? I can be a friend of others, right? Unfortunately, there's a big problem here. Why it is difficult for people to maintain a metta attitude, right? Loving and caring attitude, why it is difficult, especially in the deluded kind of mode in this world. Actually, people do not, the individual does not perceive many other beings as really beings with a throbbing heart. Many other people are just like objects. Other people are just objects. That is why, after this pandemic, sometimes healthcare workers, sometimes nurses, they cry. Maybe you have seen in the videos they posted. They said, wow, these are not numbers. Those who died, these are not just numbers. This is about people. This is about people, they say. And they have learned it the hard way, right? Mindfulness meditators, they know before this pandemic, at least when they are awake and heedful, mindful, they know that even people, they hear about maybe at a distance, but they see in their on the screen of their devices, this person is a real person with a throbbing heart. Heart is beating, there is flesh. And if we do not have that mindfulness, other people are just objects. Unfortunately, in this present day world, even a couple lives under one roof. The significant other, right, might not be a real person. It is all about sensual gratification. What we call love also very selfish to the core. So this path demands that you try to generate loving and caring feeling, thoughts of metta. And next one, thoughts of compassion, also very connected to that, right? One beautiful saying I heard, right? I tell you this one. Be kind to everyone you meet, because everybody is fighting a hard battle, right? I repeat it. Be kind to everybody you meet, because everyone is fighting a hard battle. Well said. And this was said way before the pandemic. This was before the pandemic. Just think about yourself, right? There is so much suffering that we never verbalize, because we are upset, we are embarrassed. There are certain forms of suffering we cannot formulate in words. Words cannot capture them. And sometimes we are embarrassed, we are ashamed of telling them, but we suffer. All unenlightened people have this stuff exclusively, right? They have. So, and when we observe, if we observe this miserable situation, unsatisfactory situation, what is the natural response? It just elicit our compassion. Compassion means the urge we have to alleviate the suffering of miserable beings, right? But it is very easy in a heedless mode in this kind of a society. It is very easy to practice the opposite. Cruelty. Whenever I see a fault or a perceived fault, I lambast. Wow, how come these people behave? Couple of days ago, I saw one man speaking on one video, right? Maybe it was on the news, right? He criticized the Sri Lankan government or maybe authorities for sending Colombo people to be quarantined in Polonnaru. We understand that there are discomforts. Now, I never think that they enjoy this. There are many problems. Right? There are practical problems. Some people do not like quarantine centers to be located, built up in their areas, right? So it is very difficult in this situation to satisfy everybody. So many practical problems arise, and we are very grateful. At least if you have got some quarantine center in Polonnaru, be thankful for that. Healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, even monks. Monks in the sense they are doing their spiritual healing thing, right? Sometimes for hours on end, monks engage in this chanting. They have some value. They have some healing effect. All sorts of people, even janitorial staff in a hospital, right? They are risking their lives. Be thankful. It is very easy to criticize because there is cruelty, right? There is something called non-violent communication. Non-violent communication. It is a big topic in the West because the people practice the opposite. And with that, we are moving on to the next subtopic. It is right speech, right? If we understand the predicament of these beings, why the heck we are going to impose some more suffering with our bad words? World has enough suffering inbuilt to the existence, right? So it really makes sense if we use sweet, gentle, honey words. Very easily the opposite might come. So right speech, right? We have to refrain from musavada veramani, parusavacha veramani, pisunavacha veramani, samprapalapa veramani. We have to refrain from lying. We have to refrain from harsh speech. We have to refrain from slandering. We have to refrain from frivolous talks, right? And also about speech, Buddha also said that even what is true should not be uttered always, right? With regard to our speech, we have to check we have to ask ourselves, is it the right time? Am I telling in the right time? Am I telling something factual, right? Am I telling in the right tone? Is it coming from compassion or universal love? Or is it kind of emotional reaction that to unleash my frustration? Generally, people are frustrated and they do not reflect or accept that. And that frustration is went out when we open our mouth in the form of discrimination, in the form of criticizing others, fault finding, unfortunately. And this is a big part of this global problem. So, right speech, right action, right? We have to samma kammanta. We have to refrain from three bodily misconduct. We have to refrain from killing living beings, refrain from taking what is not given, and refrain from sexual misconduct. Right? Then right livelihood. Right livelihood. And there is wrong livelihood. If you understand that this aimless wandering of samsara will persist, if you do not do something, if you do not restrain your behavior, and it is not easy to sustain and maintain this life. However, the methods you employ to earn your living should be harmless ones. Basically, for lay people, there are 5 banned trades, right? We should not use things like uh, selling weapons, selling animals, and selling intoxicants and liquors, selling poisons, and slave trade to earn your living. And also, we should not engage in, very hypocritical, exploitative things. All are very mean behaviors, which has wrong intention when the mind is polluted. As an example, now when monks are concerned, our 4 requisites should come from harmless manner. On the other hand, monk also can abuse his lay people. Sometimes, sometimes, sometimes by the way we manipulate our words and our ideas, we might arouse the inferior feeling of a person so that he has to share what he has. He has to give. Otherwise, he will be ridiculed. He will be ashamed of not giving. Such things can be done, right? And there is no compassion, right? If I say, okay, there's a newcomer to this city, I ask, what is your school in Sri Lanka? When you were schooling, and let's say if he said, okay, I'm from Ananda College, and if I said to him, oh, Anandis, they are great benefactors, so and so person, right? Our secretary, our treasurer, all these people are from your school and they have spent a lot, right? We really appreciate that. And there are such ways to tap into that inferior feeling of the particular person, and then they are sort of pushed to do what the monk like, and such incidents are recorded in Dhamma and also in the commentaries. And if we get our food or other things, and if we get other projects also done in this kind of manner, it is all wrong view, wrong intention, everything is violated, right? That is wrong livelihood, right? Then a right effort, it is about energy, and it is mainly about mental energy. So energy should be employed in 4 ways. What are those 4 ways, right? Energy, effort should be aroused and applied so that unarisen, unwholesome thoughts, states will not arise. And we have to apply our effort. Already arisen unwholesome states should be abandoned, should be eradicated. They should be thwarted, right? And already arisen wholesome states should be nourished, should be developed. And the wholesome states we could not develop so far. We have to put forth effort to develop that. We have to pay our attention. We have to apply techniques so that unarisen, unwholesome states, virtues will emerge in our life. These are the 4-fold efforts, Samma Vayama, right? Then right mindfulness. Now, right mindfulness, Samma Sati, right? So now I was talking about before other previous factors, like there is right speech, and also there is right intention. There is thoughts of renunciation, right? We need right mindfulness to remind us that we are not on this path. As an example, right? When I delivered my first inaugurative first Dhamma talk, right? I can remember, I felt that my whole body was on fire because there were audience, about 600 people in my Sri Lankan temple, right? About 600 people. And so there is nothing in having a big audience, right? But I suffered something like stage phobia. I was 31 years old then, right? I came to this order a bit late. So unfortunately, I had certain bad habits I learned in my lay life, right? So when I was about to give this talk, I felt my body is very hot, like it was burning. And somehow I delivered the talk. Then later I reflected on what happened, how come, right? This happens because, when our thoughts are ego-centered, this easily happens because then we become self-consciousness. We become self-conscious. We start to think, what if I say the wrong thing? What if others are not impressed, right? So there is some medicine, there is an antidote for this in many levels, right? One thing is, instead of thinking it is my talk, what happens if I think this is our talk, this is our journey, this is our spiritual attempt? That is how I think now. Whenever this stage phobia or something similar is lurking around in my mind, it says me that I don't have enough compassion, I don't have universal love. My actions when they don't arise from a compassion and universal love kind of mentality, this kind of very constricting, debilitating problems will arise. And when there is compassion, there is nothing to worry. I tell you, I share with you what I know. If you are benefited, it is good. If you are not benefited, I'm not responsible, right? That also good. I try my best, and I don't have to suffer any anxiety. So in a practical sense, this is not so easy because of the Sakkaya Ditthi we practice in the long samsara. Okay, the gist is that is right mindfulness, which reminds us our unwholesome states are manifested both in our body and in our mind. So mindfulness of the body will remind us now there is some problem, there is high heat. Look into this, there is some problem, right? This cannot be because, especially when you do something good, something wholesome, if there is some fire inside, something is wrong somewhere. So please check, please correct this. Mindfulness of the body, right? Mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of consciousness, mindfulness of Dhamma, the mental states, right? So this mindfulness will help that right thinking, right intention, right speech, everything is interconnected. Then right concentration, samma samadhi. So one-pointedness is important and integral part of our emotional psychological ecosystem. Even cats and dogs also have that, but this is samma samadhi, right? Samma samadhi. So it is explained as the 4 jhanas, right? Vivicheva kamehi vivichehi akusalehi dhammehi savitakkan savicharam vivekajam piti sukham upasampadya viharati. Withdrawn from sensual pleasures, withdrawn from unwholesomeness, the meditator abides in the first jhana, which is supported by 5 factors. There are vitakka vichara, applied thought, sustained thought, piti, happiness, and bliss. And last one is ekaggata, one-pointedness. There are so many things to perceive in this world. And if mind start to jump from one object for the next, right, we cannot know even a single thing fully. When we develop one-pointedness to this level, jhana level, we focus on one particular aspect of a particular nimitta or an object. And that is a good ground to cultivate this right concentration, samma samadhi. So the third, about third noble truth, we have to realize it for ourselves, right? We have to realize it for ourselves. That is the assignment comes with that. And regarding the fourth noble truth, we have to develop these path factors. Bhave tabba. Okay, dear friends, now we have to wind up. So thank you very much for having invited me here. And also, in short, I also would like to tell you that when this right effort is concerned, it is not only on a personal level, right? At a societal level also, we can apply this right effort, right? In the sense that, you know, what Adammika Sutta and suttas like Agganya Sutta, they say that how Mother Nature behaves, also to some extent, it is conditioned by your behaviors, right? If people live in a very careless manner, there are many catastrophic events in the world also. So regarding this pandemic and such things, if we can make an effort, that is right effort, if we can make an effort, we can at least save, we can mitigate the catastrophes, we can save at least some lives can be saved. So doctors, nurses, scientists, they are doing their job. And as spiritual people, let us do our job. In some spiritual attempt, my teacher, Venerable Dr. Kukulpani Sudasi Thero, has organized another Satyakriya and specific Pirit chanting. So I kindly invite all of you to join. Within a couple of days, we can send that kind of instructions in a PDF. So as time is up, I'm not going to tell you in detail. Venerable Sudasi is an expertise in this field. For last 15 years, he has educated people about how to employ spiritual power in mitigating catastrophes of the world, right? It is in harmony with what Buddha preached, right? What you experience in your environment, in your social settings, that has something to do with how we behave. Everything is interconnected. If we make an effort, at least some lives should be saved. Some lives could be saved. So I kindly invite you to that spiritual deed, the Pirit chanting and particular Satyakriya, the act of truth. So let us share all well-earned merits with heavenly beings and also departed relatives and friends with these stanzas. ආකාසට්ටාජ බුම්මට්ටා දේවා නාග මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්칸තු ශාසනං ආකාසට්ටාජ බුම්මට්ටා දේවා නාග මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්칸තු දේශනං ආකාසට්ටාජ බුම්මට්ටා දේවා නාග මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්칸තු මම් පරන්ති ඉදම්මේ ඥාතිනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉදම්මේ ඥාතිනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉදම්මේ ඥාතිනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ. By the power of all the virtues we accrued, by the blessings of the triple gem, by the blessings of all the heavenly beings who shared these merits, may all of your good, wholesome wishes come true. May all of your lives be protected upon development of all enlightening qualities. May you soon be able to realize the unsurpassed bliss of liberation. අභිවාදන සීලිස්ස නිච්ඡං වද්ධාපචායිනෝ චත්තාරෝ ධම්මා වඩ්ඩන්ති ආයුවන්නෝ සුඛං බලං ආයුරාරෝග්‍ය සම්පatti සග්ග සම්පatti මේවච අතෝ නිබ්බාන සම්පatti ඉමිනාතේ සමිජ්ජතු.
චන්දානන්ද පණ්ඩිතහාරෝ මම හේමලංකාර හඳුරු.
නායක හඳුනේ
අනේ බොහෝම පිං මේ කරපු උදව්වට ඇත්ත වශයෙන් මේ ස්තුති කරන්න මේ වචන නෑ ඒ තරම් ලොකු උදව්වක් මේක.
අනේ ඔබ වහන්සේලාට ගොඩක් පිං සිද්ධ වෙනවා. මටත් අවස්ථාවන්නේ.
ඉතින් මේ අපේ චන්දි මහඳුරෝ ඉතින් ඒක මේ ඕගනයිස් කරලා මේ පිළියෙල කළා. ඔබ වහන්සේට පැවරුම් බොහෝම ගෞරවයෙන් බාරගත්තයි කියලා කිව්වා. ඒ බාරගත්තා වගේම ගිය සතියේ මේ සතියේ දෙකේම හරි ලස්සනට ඒ කටයුතු ටික මේ සිද්ධ කරලා දුන්න එක ගැන ගොඩාක් පිං. ඉතින් ඔබ වහන්සේට මම දීර්ඝායුෂ ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා. ඔය ආගමික කටයුතු තව තවත් හොඳින් සිද්ධ කරගෙන යාමට අවශ්‍ය කරන සියලු නිරෝගී සම්පන්නිය ලැබේවා කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා. එහෙනම් තෙරුවන් සරණයි. පොඩි හාමුදුරන්ටත් එහෙනම් බොහෝම මේ ස්තුතියි කියන පොඩි හාමුදුරුවෝ ඔක්කොම ඕගනයිස් කරලා දෙනවා ඒක ඔය පැත්තේ.
එහෙමයි. පින් අනුමෝදන් කරන පොඩි හාමුදුරුවෝ හොඳයි තෙරුවන් සරණයි.
පොඩි හාමුදුරන්ටත් තුන්රුවන් සරණයි.